Saludos Marvelibers y bienvenidos a un video más de este canal, a esta entrevista. Estamos hoy aquí con nada más ni nada menos que Mick Wingert. Mick, welcome. Thank you for this
Thank you.
opportunity.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, in all my interviews, I start with the same request. I ask you to tell a little about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Central California, a little town called Fresno. Some of your readers and listeners might know that area. I grew up there and went to Fresno State University. In 2004, I moved down to Los Angeles and I started pursuing the animation industry. And about 2008, I started work on my first big breakthrough project, which was a video game for the first Kung Fu Panda film. I voice matched Jack Black, and that's kind of how I got started in the business. And other opportunities have since come since then, but that's where it all started, was doing a video game as Jack Black. You know, you got to make it sound just like the guy.
Nice. I'm gonna ask you, this was something that you always wanted to do, or do you discover this in your time doing other stuff?
It's interesting because I think when I was little, I was always doing the performing thing, and I went to like drama or theater camps in the summers. My parents put me into those, and my dad and I would always watch cartoons. I was an avid animation fan. So I kind of always knew that this was what I wanted to be. And like at holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving or if we're having tamales at my grandmother's house for Christmas, my uncle and I, he would do his impressions and I would go back and forth with him and we would both do impressions and stuff. And now this is like the early 80s, so he had like two impressions. One of them was Ronald Reagan and the other one was Rodney Dangerfield. And I would just try to match him voice for voice. So that's kind of how I grew up doing this kind of thing. And then in college, I actually majored in mass communication and journalism. But then shortly afterwards, I decided I would really give a good solid try at making my way as an actor, specifically as a voice actor for cartoons. Yeah, when I came to Los Angeles, I didn't have any plans to be on camera at all or be a movie star. I only wanted to come and do this.
Great. One of the things that I want to talk about is about your work doing voice matching of Jack Black. You tell us that your first time was in the video game. I have no idea of that.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little more about all that?
Well, I try to say in every time I get a chance to tell this story to the public that I wouldn't be anywhere if it weren't for one of my friends in the business. His name is James Arnold Taylor. You might know him as Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Clone Wars. And he was at an audition for a video game. They were casting the video game for the first Kung Fu Panda movie. Now, I don't think they do this as much anymore, but back in 2008, they were still making, like, every time a major animated film would come out, there'd be a video game version of the story that you could play through. And Activision was doing the game, the Kung Fu Panda video game. And James was on the audition, and he told the casting director, look, I just don't have Jack Black in my wheelhouse, but who you should call is Mick Wingert's agent because he sounds just like him. And James offered me that. I did not have a Jack Black impression at the time. But I got the call anyway. They took his word. They took him at his word. They called. I got an audition opportunity and worked all weekend It was a Monday audition, and I got the call, I want to say on a Friday, a Thursday or a Friday, and I spent the next 3 days doing nothing but watching Jack Black media, every movie I could get my hands on, to find out how to do this guy's voice. Because when you're doing a big impression, like an impression that's really unique, like let's say like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Jack Nicholson or something, those impressions, a Rodney Dangerfield like my uncle used to do, those are very distinct voices. You know, everyone's got a Christopher Walken because he talks so individually. It's easier to do those because they're almost parodies of themselves. Well, I could not grasp how to do Jack Black. And the reason why is his voice is very close to mine. So we're talking, instead of grabbing for the easy, easy caricatures and the easy voice impressions, I had to find the little differences and grab for the little things that made our voices different. And it was a lot more work. But eventually I clued into, the first place I started was just changing my jaw position. I just started talking like this, and just putting that down there started me talking a little bit more like Jack. And then over time, as I've gotten to play the character of Poe, specifically, for the last 10 years or so, I've developed and refined my Jack Black, so I don't lean on any underbite or anything else, excuse me, to make that happen. So it was that video game. I clearly booked it, and from there, they had another actor who was voice matching Jack for the film work when Jack couldn't come into the studio, but then after that, they were casting Legends of Awesomeness, the show that was on Nickelodeon, Kung Fu Panda show that was on Nickelodeon, and we were off to the races. And I booked that one too, and then pretty soon I became the go-to guy for Poe.
No, I have to say that you have a great talent. I have to say it because Jack Black is like this unique person. Yeah, his own way of talking, and to be the voice match of Jack Black, it's not easy. It's not easy to
It
copy.
wasn't easy for me.
Yeah, I imagine it's a lot of work that you have to put to do something like this, and really, the fans of Kung Fu Panda, we appreciate your work, and thank you for doing this excellent job.
Thank you. Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Sure.
I really do believe, anybody who goes to Hollywood is there to be famous, right? And I really believe I've done my job right if nobody knows Jack didn't do the job. If everybody thinks it's Jack, then I've done my job. So, it's interesting because there's a lot of media flurry right now about some of the more high-profile projects I'm involved in, and when they're calling me out for being myself and acting, it's so different for me because I'm so used to being in the background. I'm so used to being, the guy that you shouldn't see. For example, Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween, that movie, I did the voice of Slappy, the main villain. So they wanted somebody to sound like Jack Black, and I said the same thing then. Like, I just tried to do Jack's performance from the first film when he played the voice of the ventriloquist dummy, because if somebody doesn't know that it's not him, then I've done my job. It's really it's very rewarding. It's very fun to fool people that way. It makes me smile to know that I pulled one over on him. Yeah. What's interesting about Jack's voice, and then I'll let you ask a question. But what's interesting about Jack's voice is I'm working on a project right now. Cannot talk about it. It's all very NDA. But I am listening to Jack Black and practicing some voice matching for him. And in, say, the 10 years or so, now it's what, 11, like 14 years since, 13 years since Kung Fu Panda, the first Kung Fu Panda came out, his voice has gotten a lot deeper. So now if I'm aping Jack, it's got to be down here because he's, we're all getting older, and as we get older, our voices drop. So now I've got to do, voice match down here because it just age and being hard on your throat. He sings with a rock band and that kind of thing. So it's changing over the years.
Great. I was talking like a month ago with Josh Keaton.
Oh, wonderful.
And we was talking about something like this. You may know he voiced skinny Steve Rogers on What If. And I tell him that a lot of people think that they were listening to Chris Evans. And it was the same thing. They say, hey, if people think that was Chris Evans, I do my job.
Yeah.
I do all my job. And now listening to you say the same, if people think that is Jack Black, I do my job. It's something beautiful, because you are doing your job. Everyone, if do something, want to be recognized, or to everyone know, oh, it was not Jack Black, it was Mick Wingert. Right. But to say these words that, okay, if the people think I'm Jack Black, I'm okay. So that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, hey, I like to be noticed like everybody else does. I like to get, some attention. And really, at the end of the day, there's a wonderful feeling of pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, of really fooling them if they think that it was the actual celebrity that's involved. I feel the same way about some of the voice matching I've done on the same series as Josh, which has been a joy for me as well. In fact, I started, and I know this is the Marvel Latin podcast or interview. Like, I started in Marvel as Tony Stark in their animated offerings, and my whole intent, I got that out of an audition from the booth. I just recorded it, just like any other audition that ever came across my table. They were just looking for somebody. There was no James that handed me this thing, and nobody was already had me in mind. It was just, we need somebody to play Iron Man in straight-to-video, direct-to-video for kids called Marvel Superhero Frostfight. And we've got some of our cast from Avengers reprising their roles, but some aren't. A notable exception, like for those of your listeners and viewers who pay attention to the old school Marvel animation shows that were on before Marvel Studios took over, Roger Craig Smith was Captain America in the Avengers show, the most recent one. But in Frostfight, it was played by Matthew Mercer, who some folks might know also from his other voice work, as well as he's the Dungeon Master for Critical Role, which is a big D&D thing right now. Long story endless, they were looking for somebody and didn't have anybody for Iron Man, so I just took it upon myself. I was like, if I'm gonna audition for this role, if I want to play in this universe, then I don't think there's any more perfect version of Tony Stark than what Robert Downey Jr. laid down in 2008. Like, that he is the consummate Iron Man. In fact, as a fan, I wasn't necessarily a fan. I thought Iron Man was okay, but I didn't hate him or anything, but he wasn't really on my radar. But that movie and his performance in that movie was so good and so charismatic and helped me as an audience member get what Tony Stark was all about. So I thought when I was auditioning for Frostfight, okay, if I'm going to do Iron Man at all, I want to put in that kind of lilting speak and that cooler, smarter, hipper version that Downey does, because to me that is Iron Man. So I think there was a line something like the line was something like, I can understand why my dad would rather deal with particle physics than play ball with his boy, or something like that. And I decided that I was just going to do that upspeak thing that he does when he's getting very excited about something. So I said something like, I can see why my dad wanted to do particle physics instead of playing with his boy. Makes sense to me. And that wasn't the line, obviously, but it was something like that. And it caught somebody's ear in casting. And I'm very grateful that it did, because they gave me that job, and then they liked it so much they gave me something. They gave me the Lego Marvel's superhero cartoon it was a one-off that was being produced. And then all of a sudden my agent gives me a call and says, hey, they want you to be a part of Avengers Assemble Season 4. The actor doing Iron Man is parting ways with them for unrelated reasons, and they want you to be Tony Stark. So that was pretty cool. And I've gotten to do Iron Man for live shows, whether that's the stadium show or the Disney Cruise Line had like a Marvel Day at Sea. And that is a live stunt show with live stunt performers on the boat. It's a really great show, by the way. But that's all the audio is all Avengers cast, and it ended up being us animated cast rather than the cinematic cast. And so I got to be Iron Man for that. And then, again, the shows. And then when Marvel Spider-Man had Tony Stark as a guest star, and when Guardians of the Galaxy had Tony Stark as a guest star, and when the Ironheart special came up, the Riri Williams story as part of the Marvel, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking. Marvel, it's kind of their revamp or their renew. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember the name of it. Oh, they're going to kill me at Marvel for not knowing this. But anyway.
I don't know. It was like Secret Warriors or something like that. No.
Well, Secret Wars was Avengers. There was a project that had to do with like the next generation of heroes. There was a special like Kamala Khan series. There was a short series, like 2 or 3 episodes. There was this Ironheart, this Riri Williams thing. I can't remember, and they called it. They had like a campaign name, like Marvel Revolution or Marvel. I got nothing. I'm so sorry.
I'm trying to figure out the names. Let me see if I can help you with that. But I know what you're talking about. Is I think it's Secret Wars. I don't know, or Secret Wars, something like that. Marvel Rising.
Thank you. That's what it
Marvel
was.
Rising.
It had an R in it. Marvel Rising. That's right.
Yeah.
As part of the Marvel Rising, I got to play Tony Stark in various Marvel Rising projects. So that was super cool to be able to be the coolest guy in the room, to reprise that role as Iron Man across all these different properties. And now, obviously in What If as well.
Yeah. I remember when I was watching the season 4, I think it was, of Avengers Assemble. And I listened Tony Stark. I was like, what? Is Robert doing this? Because the voice sounds pretty similar. Then, well, I investigate a little more and I figure out it was you doing the voice. But I want to talk about yesterday episode of What If.
Please feel
because free. What a word you make. Because oh my god, you go to another level doing your performance of Tony Stark. I mean, You have always been excellent doing, but yesterday watching the episode, I was watching Robert Downey Jr. Every expression, everything that he said, everything, it was Robert Downey Jr. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Excellent job.
For those watching at home, What If is available on Disney Plus right now, and episode 6 just dropped. And
yes,
I can admit publicly that I am Tony Stark in that episode, and it was a joy to do. It was a joy to do that role. It was a huge honor too, and I'm grateful for your feedback, very much so. Thank you. I really tried to do the character justice. And that goes back to even before I got involved with this Marvel Studios project, even before What If, like going back to my work in Marvel Animation, I really just wanted to bring the heart of this character that I had really come to enjoy and love in Robert's performance to the small screen. I don't think I'm a dead-on voice match. I'm glad that you saw Tony Stark in that and Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal. I mean, if I were to play his voice and my voice back to back, it would be harder. It would be easier for me to tell them apart than it would be for me to tell my voice from Jack Black, let's say. So I don't think I'm as spot on a voice match, but I hope that the character feels the same. I hope the character is recognizable as, like, this is the Tony Stark we've come to love and we want to watch more of. All the way back to Frostfight. I mean, we were in the session and just trying to come up with the right delivery for, you know, Iron Man's cool snarky lines that he had when he was making fun of people or making fun of them and they didn't know it. You know, just trying to find the right tone that makes this character feel the same as the one that everybody fell in love with in 2008. I mean, it's no surprise that movie was the film that launched the Marvel Universe. People don't talk about The Incredible Hulk starring Edward Norton as the first or one of the first Marvel feature films, at least not as much as they talk about 2008 Iron Man. And it's because of that performance. And my job, not just my job, but my joy is to bring that to life. I mean, it's so fun. It's so fun to get to say snarky things and to like, you know, have the delayed delivery so that, you know, it sounds like he's got his mind's going a mile a minute and you never know what's going to come out. It's so much fun to play that character and has been for the last couple years for me.
Well, Mick, it was a huge honor. I don't want to take more of your time, so thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate your time and nothing. Gente, saben, vayan a ver todo lo que este gran hombre ha producido, esa serie de Kung Fu Panda y What If, que se encuentra en Disney Plus ahora mismo. Ayer se estrenó ese 6º episodio. Tiene la interpretación increíble de este hombre, así que vayan a verlo. Y será pues, gente, hasta la próxima.